Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on the role of iPaaS and IT modernization by Zuchi Systems. So before getting into the show, I wanted to just brush up on why we wanted to talk on this topic. The answer is we have seen a lot of clients of ours struggling with legacy systems running on premises that can't be moved to the cloud, but at the same time, the businesses can't run without them. Businesses then realize the need for application modernization, and an integrated approach becomes essential. Here is where the integration platform as a service, that is an iPaaS solution, turns as a key enabler because of its ability to connect to multiple systems and data sources without driving the cost sky high. And in this webinar, we'll see the details on enterprise integration and how one of the huge retail giant, Laurus Gibbs, succeeded in its digital transformation journey with the right integration platform in place. Myself, Lini Susan John, Head of Marketing at Zuchi Systems, will be the host for the day. I, on behalf of the entire Zuchians, thank you all for joining us today and for the time you have dedicated to attending this webinar. So here are some webinar housekeeping rules. Be sure your audio is connected properly. All the participants' line will be muted. If you have a question during the presentation, please do type them into the chat box. We'll be logging all the questions and answering them during the at the end of the session during the Q&A. The agenda for the day will look like this. Our speaker will take you through what exactly is enterprise integration, what the benefits, the actual challenges behind enterprise integration, the need for iPaaS solution. And as you know, we have a guest speaker today. A guest speaker will take you through how Laurus Gibbs succeeded in its digital transformation journey with having the right integration platform in place. With this, let me introduce our speakers for the day. Vasudevan Swaminathan, famously addressed as Vasu, is the President and Principal Consultant at Zuchi Systems, where he plays a pivotal role in developing innovative solutions in the digital space. Zuchi Systems is an intelligent automation solutions company helping businesses produce high-quality software. A trusted partner in the digital landscape, the focus of Zuchi is helping customers evolve and stay agile in a challenging business environment. We also have a guest speaker today, and I'm happy to welcome Mike Kriesman, Senior Information Technology Leader for several years and currently the CIO at Laurus Gibbs, one of the largest providers of hospital gift shop outsourcing solutions, and currently operates 380 plus gift shops in the United States. Welcome to you both once again. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Over to you, Vasu.
Thank you, Lini. I think the audience might have a little bit of trouble in hearing you. I think there was a little bit of a patchy connection felt, but I think welcome Mike on this webinar, and we'll get started with the needs around enterprise integration. The webinar's title, "The Role of iPaaS in IT Modernization." I'll just take a minute to talk about that a little bit before I get into the enterprise integration part. IT modernization has different meanings for different people today, and digital transformation adds a little more complexity is what people feel. But and we can say that digital transformation complements IT modernization, and they both are distinct actually. While digital transformation looks at all the latest technologies, the emerging ones, hype cycle like artificial intelligence and things like that, IT modernization is about making sure your legacy systems are upgraded, they are either moved to the cloud, or your legacy systems can communicate with your modern technologies and things like that. So the role of integration platform as a service in IT modernization becomes very critical from that standpoint. But we'll get started with the enterprise integration, talk a little bit about what this means and what this world is all about before we move forward. Enterprise integration encompasses a lot of things, but the key or the most important thing is data. Especially today, we are talking about humongous amounts of data, or what we call as big data. So using data becomes extremely critical. So if data is not available in the right form, if data is not available between two systems, such as a legacy system versus a modern technology system and things like that, it's usually a little bit of a challenge actually. Not that this is completely new. In the past, this was addressed using enterprise service buses, or ESBs, ESB connectors as people used to call them. But naturally, there were some shortfalls in that, which is they were more on-premise and things like that, while the integration platform as a service model is more on the cloud actually. With that being said, let's look at the critical role of data and the critical role of data from an enterprise integration standpoint. So naturally, as I just mentioned, modernization, digitalization involves a lot of sharing of business data across systems. Whether you are a big business, small business, medium business, it doesn't matter, but data needs to be accessible to different systems within the premise, or outside of a premise. That is where platforms like API integration, API based integration, and all that comes in basically. And as we just said a few minutes back, enterprise integration encompasses the technologies, processes, and team structures that connect data, applications, and devices from everywhere in your IT organization. I think this is a very important thing to remember, because this kind of forms the basis for using an integration platform as a service environment. Because the terminology itself can be sometimes confusing. I know that people have been hearing a lot about SaaS versus PaaS, which is SaaS is software as a service, and then PaaS, which is platform as a service, and then IaaS, which is infrastructure as a service, and things like that. And then now we are talking about integration platform as a service. So usually there are a lot of questions in terms of what each of these ones mean and things like that. SaaS could be generally your let's say Google Apps, Dropbox, those kind of things actually. While platform as a service could be your AWS Elastic Beanstalk, or Heroku, and things like that. While infrastructure as a service could be your Amazon, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, and things like that. So that's more of a high-level information on SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. So where does integration platform as a service fit in? So as we saw earlier, if you were to bring in all of this from an on-premise standpoint, let's say, for example, you have everything set up on-premise, then the role of an enterprise service bus or an ESB connector can make all this integration possible for you. But what if you have some applications on the cloud, some on your on-premise, and what if they are outside of your network? If all of your systems are within your control, then in an on-premise environment, it becomes easier to integrate them. But what if one system is coming from one vendor, another system is coming from your organization, and another system is coming out out of another vendor, and some of these are outside of your firewall and things like that. So in that kind of a scenario, what happens? That is where you need integration platform as a service, so that you don't have to worry about taking all of the coding challenges, looking at ways to do integration and things like that. Rather, you put the iPaaS in the center of everything, so that it can help you to connect with all these systems without worrying about regulatory compliance or security issues, basically, and then take care of making sure your data gets transferred. Your legacy system can talk to a service-based architecture like microservices and things like that, basically. So at a very high level, irrespective of what the other side is, or what system is on the other side, with an iPaaS in the middle, you'll be able to communicate very effectively. So data sharing, data transferring, making sure data comes across all systems, data is able to, all systems can access data, is the important criteria for getting into an enterprise integration scenario. And if you are all on-premise, yes, the ESB connector model can still work for you. There is nothing like you have to replace your ESBs with your iPaaS or anything. But if you have systems, like cloud-based versus ground-based and things like that, then that's where iPaaS comes in, basically. So as we move forward, let's look at what are the challenges from an enterprise integration standpoint, and why iPaaS plays a very critical role. one of the things, as I said earlier, you still have APIs and data streams, and you have other systems and all that. But then data becomes a very, very important piece of the integration challenge. Getting data accessible to others or other systems is where most of the challenge is. So large volume of data or big data is what we are dealing with today. And this data needs to be cleansed. It needs to be with integrity, and post integrity, this data needs to help you in your analytics and things like that. So which means that this data has to be accessible across multiple systems before it gets to a standpoint of, let's say a digital transformation thing like artificial intelligence or advanced analytics, predictive analytics and things like that. And data formats are kind of non-standard. You can have EDA, and then you will have JSON, or you will have any kind of REST-based data, or it could be XML, anything for that matter. So non-standard data formats still needs to be read, and they need to be used for sharing information. And then you have, the other challenge, which is data coming from multiple sources and applications. For example, one of our clients who's in the banking industry, they get data from kiosk, they get it from a mobile phone, they get it from, a laptop or anything for that matter. So data comes through different sources for them. So all of this needs to be collated. And out of this, you need to identify the right data. That's what I said earlier in terms of cleansing the data, making sure you are identifying the right data that is useful for your needs when it comes to analytics or making any kind of customer offerings and things like that. Look at an Amazon or look at an Amazon model today, where when you go and purchase something, you are being recommended for something else. And naturally, a lot of us actually get interested in that and go ahead and buy it actually. So all of that comes from the data that was given to Amazon, or the data that Amazon creates in terms of identifying what they would need in order to engage customers, in order to provide a better customer experience and things like that. And then legacy integration complexities, which we spoke about earlier. What happens if your service-oriented architecture, or let's say your monolithic architecture in a legacy system needs to talk to us, a microservices model, for example? How do you still make them communicate and things like that? And the other important point being heavy reliance on IT team. For example, in 2019, there was a survey that happened, by the Van Born group actually, where they said that, at least 21% of the teams rely on the IT teams on a daily basis in order to get stuff done. And 54% of the survey respondents said that, they have to rely on IT team for something or other on a daily basis, basically. So reliance on IT team is pretty high, and it is very important to ensure that you have everything that you need in order to make the integration happen. And the IT team getting involved means that they need to set up your servers, deployments, and everything. And if you're looking for faster way to do things and all that, there could be delays and all that which needs to be handled, especially if you're in a continuous delivery mode and all of that. So IT modernization, as we spoke about earlier, requires a combination of all of this that includes messaging, application characters, data streams, enterprise integration patterns, APIs, and everything that can be deployed faster and iteratively. So to overcome these challenges, to let go of some of these from your end, you can go to you can go with the integration based platform, or integration platform as a service based architecture or tool or solution, as you call it, that can help you to overcome some of these challenges. Let's move forward. I think we'll talk about the need for an integration platform. We just spoke about that, but I just wanted to highlight a slide that an image that Gartner published, as a difference between enterprise-based architecture or enterprise-based connectors versus an iPaaS kind of a model. So two images that we see on the screen basically explain what Gartner tries to say. So, for example, if you actually look at it, the reason, the first part of this image, the first image that you see here, naturally is because of the explosion that has happened in SaaS and PaaS environments, and that being coupled with mobile, big data, Internet of Things, and all that. So that has increased basically the integration work and complexity. So the first image says many organizations have used kind of embedded integration capabilities to solve immediate and use case specific needs, but end up with an unmanageable point-to-point integration nightmare, naturally over time. So each system has its own design tool that embeds integration capabilities. And the point-to-point arrows that you see in the first screen show the uncontrolled set of access, logics, and rules that are embedded in various systems, such as packaged applications, custom applications, databases, and software as a service applications. So this scenario basically not just increases the integration cost, it also is very difficult to maintain, and it also creates potential risks in both security and regulatory aspects. That's what you see in the first image. So organizations that need an enterprise integration strategy to deal with the disruptions brought by the hybrid era of cloud and on-premise can choose to go for an integration platform as a service model, as you can see in the second image. And integration platform as a service plays a key role in the integration strategy. So being a cloud-based service platform, iPaaS supports data and application integration. So iPaaS delivers a combination of capabilities that are typically found in enterprise service buses, data integration tools, business-to-business gateways, file transfer products, API management integration, and all of that actually. So as you can see in the second image, you put iPaaS in the center between your on-premise versus your cloud, and iPaaS helps enterprises to avoid the point-to-point integration nightmares that we see in the first image, because the design and administration functions are centralized in integration platform as a service. So rather than you worrying about all of the designing and end-to-end integration using a design tool and things like that, you basically leave all of that to an iPaaS environment, and that makes things much easier, as you can see in the second image. So this is a very important aspect that enterprises will have to consider as part of integration. So if it's small, if it's not huge, yes, an on-premise versus a cloud integration can still go ahead with the, can still happen with the design tool and all that actually. But for an enterprise where usually systems are, a number of systems evolve and the number of systems get introduced often, the second model of using an integration platform as a service can be very helpful. So, and that's something enterprises will have to keep in mind as they look at data integration needs and things like that. Let's move forward. Why is integration critical to IT modernization? We spoke about this a little bit, but I just wanted to highlight a little bit in terms of why this is important actually. So, for example, today, as we discussed earlier, IT modernization includes a number of things. So, it could be digital transformation, mobile, IoT, anything for that matter. So, all of that basically, comes under the radar of IT modernization. Why would you want to take an integration-centric approach to modernization? So, for example, in many organizations, the shape and scope of modernization can vary, on a wide basis, but the goals are common across organizations and industries, which is to reduce cost and support a broader digital transformation strategy so that you can build a more agile, customer-centric, and data-driven business that can outpace your competition. So, regardless of what the technology and business goals are, integration is the one that makes modernization work, basically. So modernization cannot happen if new cloud applications exist in silos, leaving data kind of fragmented across the enterprise. So modernization will fail if a mission-critical legacy ERP application cannot communicate with a modern cloud application for sales automation, human resources, or marketing for that matter. So in many cases, integration software needs modernization. And of course, the latest being digital transformation, it has to be integrated with modernized systems. So traditional on-premise middleware such as extraction, transformation, and loading tools or enterprise service bus frameworks is not well suited for rapid and efficient integration across hybrid IT ecosystems of cloud, as well as in-house systems or mobile and IoT technologies. And as we saw earlier in this cartoon slide, point-to-point coding introduces a complex web of spaghetti connections that are kind of inflexible and costly to develop and maintain. So the most effective modernization strategy should focus on using an integration platform as a service model so that all of this can be addressed to a large extent. And to bridge the gap between existing on-premise systems and the rapidly increasing array of powerful cloud-based enterprise applications and services, a lot of organizations are, they have turned to the cloud today. So, iPaaS provides a cloud-based integration that presents the best way to address the core challenges to any kind of application modernization or digital transformation strategies that enterprise come across. So with that being said, just wanted to highlight a few things in terms of some of the top use cases for an integration-centric modernization world today. So for example, unlocking the value of legacy applications. So as we saw earlier, despite migration to the cloud, many enterprises still shun the risk, cost, and business disruption of moving from on-premise legacy ERP and things like that. So using iPaaS, organizations can comfortably move towards a cloud-based environment from legacy in an incremental fashion that can be low risk and cost effective and things like that. Again, you can accelerate your cloud-centric business using iPaaS because there are pre-built connectors in any iPaaS system, particularly solutions like Boomi, with whom Shuchi Systems is partnering with, provide you with pre-built connectors leading to cloud applications and connecting them in a very easy manner through a no-code, low-code approach. So there are UI UX that is part of the iPaaS solution, from where you can drag and drop connectors and use them basically. So whether it means your CRM is some other system, or your financial data is sitting in an SAP or anything for that matter, you can use drag and drop connectors through which a platform like Boomi can help you to do the integration and accelerate your cloud-centric business. Of course, organizations can deploy cloud applications at a new location and connect them to core on-premise ERP through iPaaS. That way streamlining subsidiary organizations and helping in market expansion and things like that. Similarly, any kind of mergers and acquisitions. So today you acquire an organization or you get acquired, or whatever it could be. It is natural that your data needs to be integrated with the data on the other side. So again, iPaaS-based systems provide the development speed and flexibility that IT teams need to navigate the wide range of integration scenarios for your business and things like that. And most importantly, innovation in the API economy. Today it's an API-driven economy, and everything runs in the form of APIs. So API capabilities in solutions like Boomi or any leading iPaaS system can make API development and management much faster, simpler, and more scalable, basically. In fact, the time it takes to code an API today is pretty expensive, is what people say. So building an API can be pretty expensive, and it will be difficult to create all by yourself. That way, it makes life easier if you had to go and use a platform like an iPaaS. So those are some of the significant advantages of using iPaaS in IT modernization world. So if you are looking at multiple sets of data that needs to be integrated across these systems in order to derive value for your business as part of your IT modernization roadmap or initiatives, choosing an iPaaS architecture or an iPaaS platform can be very helpful. Let's move ahead. As we saw earlier, what are some of the key features that an iPaaS needs to use, or some of the key characteristics of an iPaaS environment? So, data being at the center, naturally, you will have to look at ways through which you can do data connections. So your connectors and all that needs to be part of your iPaaS feature. That way, you have everything that you need in order to, do your integration. Vinny, I'm not seeing the bullet points yet. Can you please get them on the screen? Thank you. So we were talking about data connectivity, and connections happen through connectors. As we saw in the previous slide, whether you are connecting with an SAP or anything for that matter, the connectivity needs to go seamless, and iPaaS can afford you that. And data mapping and transformation. You can use your iPaaS as a partial data pipeline also, or if you have capabilities to do that, you can do that. So you need to make sure that your mapping and transformation happens well, so that any kind of future analytics and all that can be built. So mapping and transformation, another area where you would expect an iPaaS platform to carry as a characteristic or a trait. Data quality assurance, data needs to be tested for quality, and the integrity of data is very critical for any business value that you want to get out of the data. So an iPaaS system should be able to offer you, or an iPaaS solution should be able to offer you data quality assurance abilities. And again, routing, orchestration, lifecycle management tools, all of these are features or characteristics that you would expect from an iPaaS tool. And full life cycle API management. Yes. Again, this becomes very critical, not very different from the previous slide. It's an API world, and it is very important that your iPaaS solution offers you with full-fledged API capabilities, so that you can basically transfer or request and respond to data and things like that. And you don't have to really worry about all of this being done by your IT team, or all of this being done by in-house developers and things like that. With an iPaaS platform in place, most of these can be configured, and you can derive the benefits out of that configuration. So those are some of the key features that you may want to look at if you want to, if you're looking to purchase a integration platform as a service solution like a Boomi or anything for that matter. Let's move ahead. We are partnered with the Boomi platform, and naturally we wanted to highlight some of the key features of Boomi. There are a lot of other platforms. However, Boomi is one of the top platforms that today rules the iPaaS world. So Boomi provides you with a lot of features that includes integration with any kind of system, let it be on-premise, Internet of Things, mobile, analytics, data that comes out of analytics, social, business-to-business gateways, cloud, and everything actually. And Boomi sits in the middle of everything. And Boomi takes care of, as we saw in the previous slides, it takes care of your API management, your electronic data interchange. When data comes in multiple formats or non-standard formats, Boomi can still handle it. And then there is your application integration with any kind of system that you want to integrate. Your extraction, transformation, and loading, which is the ETL activity, is handled, and Boomi handles your workflow automation, and of course your master data management in terms of managing your data and making sure it gets transferred and shared across systems and things like that. So Boomi is one of the top platforms today in this space, and Shuchi Systems partners with Boomi today, and we are helping our customers using the Boomi platform to overcome any kind of integration challenges between on-premise and cloud applications. With that being said, let's move ahead. Yeah, I will take a moment to introduce Mike, who's part of this call. So Mike Priestman, Chief Information Officer at Loris Gifts, joins us from Carrollton, Texas, USA. And Mike is a former CEO of Radio Shack, and Mike currently heads the information organization for Loris Gifts. And we are working with Mike very closely in terms of looking at their modernization and things like that, and helping them to achieve their business goals. So we invited Mike to be part of this webinar to talk about some of the things that the integration area has worked for him in terms of using connectors and things like that. And Mike will talk about that in a little bit of detail in terms of what Loris Gifts' business goals are and how Loris achieved it using an integration platform like Boomi. Mike, thanks a lot for joining us. Over to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Basu. Appreciate the introduction. So, you can go and load the slide. So, Loris Gifts is a hospital gift shop outsource provider. So basically, we own and run the gift shops in almost 400 locations across the United States. Obviously, with everybody, we've had a lot of challenges lately, but this platform only helps out with that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So the company's 30 plus years old. Started with one gift shop in one hospital, and we've grown to this over the last 4 years. I will say I joined the company a little over 2 years ago, and pretty quickly realized that there was little investment made in the technology arena. They pretty much grew the company from the ground up, and the systems kind of went along with that, and just had a very small staff supporting and running it. So aside from kind of analyzing that, I realized also the back end systems, the financial systems, and the merge systems were very out of date and needed to be refreshed. So one of the key initiatives we took on right away as a company was that project exactly, which was a big undertaking. We wanted to refresh our merchandise and financial systems in a 6 to 9 month time period, which is extremely aggressive for what was going on at the time and what continues to go on. So we evaluated different options. We ended up choosing MI9 as our merchandise system, which was hosted in the cloud, and NetSuite for software as a service. So that was actually a big undertaking, because until now everything was on premise at the company, and we are now going and launching these other solutions in the cloud. So chose the products, and we then needed to work on the implementation plan. As part of the implementation planning, we had significant integration, as can be expected in defining. We had the two cloud systems. One was mainly cloud and one was software as a service, and then a legacy systems. And we had little support staff to assist it. When I joined the company, there was 10 people in the all of IT, and I would say half of those were the support desk for the stores. So very small company or very small IT shop, but we had a lot of things we needed to get done quickly. Given all of this, I didn't want to build custom integrations and custom tools because I didn't want to have the ongoing support costs for that. So at that point, we looked at what we needed to do and how we were going to pull off these integrations, and we enlisted Zuki and Boomi to help out with the next steps, and it's been very successful. I'll talk a little bit about that. So we got in touch with Zuki and had them help us build out the integrations. Our strategy was to use only Boomi, Dell Boomi, and only SQL stored procedures to move data throughout systems. So that was what we chartered the whole project with, and Zuki came on board and took that on. So we moved data between FTP servers to databases and vice versa for both cloud and on-premise. We moved data from database to database. We moved data from database to NetSuite. And the database to NetSuite is interesting because we're using Boomi's NetSuite connector, as was discussed on the call. They have out-of-the-box connectors. So that made the integration with NetSuite very easy. So all these connectors and processes were built out to move data from our legacy system into our merge systems, into our financial systems. And all along the way, also, we wanted to make sure that any integrations that were being built out had alerts and monitoring put in place. And so we also took advantage of Boomi's email connectors for notifications within the job. So the end result's kind of what you're seeing on the slide. Zuki helped us meet the timelines, which was great. Very aggressive and very challenging, but we were able to pull it off. So thank you there. We went from daily updates to our financial systems to near real-time loads. So now basically, as we're processing invoices throughout the day, they're loaded into NetSuite and can be worked almost real time. And our sales and stock levels are also moved into our financial systems throughout the day. So we went from a very next day oriented view of the data to we can see it near real time. So that's been a huge accomplishment for the company. The other thing is we've seen minimal outages, and I would say really no outages as a result of the platform. We've been in place a year and a half now, and I cannot remember one outage as part of the Boomi platform. We have had some data related issues that are outside of the Boomi that was due to legacy data. And we have had some challenges with the NetSuite integration from NetSuite being down for maintenance for one reason or another. But aside from that, definitely no outages on Boomi's side. From a process flow, from a support standpoint, support costs are minimal. I have 0 IT staff dedicated running the platform as services. Zuki does help me support it when needed, but that is extremely minimal, maybe once a month, if that. And so the process flow diagrams make it easy to support and train others on the process. So instead of having code to look at to figure out how things work, you look at a nice process flow diagram, and it's easy to have anybody pretty much pick it up and try to figure out what's going on, and if there's any challenges, adjust. So we were able to successfully implement it, went to a faster movement of data throughout the systems. People are getting the data much more timely, and then realistically, the best thing for me is the cost of supporting this tool and keeping it up and running is very minimal versus having custom code or custom servers to keep up and running and have somebody dedicated to that. So very pleased with the outcome, and continue to use both Zuki and Boomi to do other things going forward as well. With that, I think I'll turn it back over to you guys.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Lenny, I think we are almost towards the end of this, Lenny. Yeah, if there are any questions, we can take that.
Yes, we have some questions. So let me take a couple of questions. So one of the question is, How quickly can you onboard new integrations, and do I need to employ integration architects?
I think it all depends actually. Integration is usually easier, but sometimes the way we set it up and the way we want to extract data and all that might take a little bit of time, depending on how the systems are set up and all that. So there is no definite answer in terms of how quickly can you do, but definitely it should be better than any kind of code-based integration and things like that. So iPaaS can definitely be much better and faster actually. That much I can say. But I don't have I cannot put a definite timeline and say how quickly can we do that. So it all depends on the nature of the systems and everything. Do we need integration architects? Yeah. So do we need integration architects? Yeah. Large enterprises, yes. So for example, Mike spoke about their experience in Loris. We do have people, but we don't per se deploy an integration architect there. But we have people who are helping on the Boomi side and things like that. So the need to have a dedicated integration architect and all that would depend on again the environment and things like that. Though I've seen that large-scale enterprise deployments would need dedicated architects. I'll probably pause there. And Mike, if you want to add anything, go ahead.
No, you hit on most of it. I think obviously, as I mentioned, in our case, we don't have a dedicated architect. To your point, the project needed dedicated people to it to look at the data and to help out with the mapping. And then we used obviously the Zuki team to help build out the processes. But from an ongoing standpoint, like I said, our support costs both from a dollars as well as resources is extremely minimal. You probably do not need a dedicated person if you're not making changes, in my opinion.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Another question is it secure to transfer business critical data to cloud solutions?
Yeah, that part of it is being handled by iPaaS. So I have not seen a scenario where security has come as a concern. So I believe it should be good.
Okay. Something related to that, what happens to the data shared, and do I have full ownership of my data?
Yes, of course. It supports any iPaaS supports multi-tenancy and things like that. So your data is pretty secured, and the multi-tenant model allows each individual or each organization use it in a very specific way, which is the data is owned by them, and it looks like the data is only for them actually, and that's the fact. It's not looks like. The fact is the data is only accessible to them and owned by them actually. Though the cloud platform, since iPaaS being a cloud platform, you have the benefit of using multi-tenancy and keeping all the data ownership with you.
Okay, that's all with the questions. We don't have any further questions here. So thanks once again to you, Vasu, and thank you, Mike, for taking your time and being with us here for this webinar. This was definitely an insightful webinar. Thank you both.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Appreciate the invite.
Thank you. Thanks to all the great audiences that we had today. And I also welcome you all to follow us, Zuchi Systems, in the social platforms. We share some great content there that can help you. So do follow us and stay tuned with our other webinars that will be coming in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.